A single pill can cost thousands of dollars, not because of the ingredients, but because of what happened before it ever reached a pharmacy shelf. When a pharmaceutical company files a patent for a new drug, they're not just protecting a formula, they're protecting a financial bet. On average, bringing a single drug to market costs between $1 and $3 billion and takes between 10 and 15 years. Most of that money goes towards something invisible to patients, research and development, and the clinical trials required by law to prove the drug actually works and won't kill you. Funding for this process comes from multiple sources. Large pharmaceutical companies use revenue from existing drugs, particularly blockbuster medications with patent protection, to bankroll experimental compounds. Some companies partner with academic institutions or government agencies like the National Institutes of Health. Others tap venture capital firms, betting that a successful drug will generate massive returns. And some rely on a combination of all three. Then comes the clinical trial phase. A drug candidate must pass through 3 stages of human testing. Phase 1 tests safety on a small group. Phase 2 examines whether it actually works. Phase 3 compares it against existing treatments with larger patient populations. Each stage requires meticulous documentation, regulatory approval, and patient recruitment. Failures are common. Around 90% of drugs that enter human trials never reach the market. The companies that survive this gauntlet face a critical window. Once the FDA approves a drug, the company receives a patent that typically lasts 20 years from the filing date. But remember, 10 to 15 years already elapsed during development and trials. That leaves maybe 5 to 10 years of exclusive market control before generic competitors can legally produce the same compound at a fraction of the price. This is why patented drug prices are so high. The pharmaceutical company must recoup those billions spent on failed experiments, successful trials, and manufacturing infrastructure, all within that narrow window before patent expiration. They're pricing not just for the drug that worked, but for all the drugs that didn't, and they're racing against the clock. Once the patent expires, generic manufacturers can produce identical compounds without bearing those development costs. They undercut the original price dramatically. This is why the same medication costs $10 as a generic and $200 as a brand name. The economics aren't about the pill itself. They're about who paid for the journey to prove it works. The system creates a permanent tension. Companies need high prices to fund innovation. Patients and governments need access to affordable treatment. Some nations negotiate prices directly with manufacturers. Others allow parallel importation of cheaper versions from abroad. The United States largely allows market pricing, which is why Americans often pay more than patients in other developed countries for identical drugs. Understanding this model doesn't resolve the ethical questions, but it does explain why a drug costs what it does, why generics are cheaper, and why pharmaceutical companies operate the way they do. The economics are locked into the biology of drug development itself. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe to uncover the hidden economics behind the industries that shape your life. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.